And folks, welcome today. We are going to have a special show today. First, I want to thank everyone for joining us. We are going to have, and joining me here already is Roger B. from Locked and Loaded, and I am Victor from On Point with Victor, and we have David with David's Picks. David's Pick. Yeah. And I'm not going to tell you what that finger just went. No.
You can pick your friends, and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose.
You can't pick your friend's nose. So yeah, folks, we are going to have a special show today. Joining us today in just a few is going to be a what is known as a Shifu, and I'm going to let Roger, folks, if you're familiar with martial arts.
If you've seen Kung Fu Panda.
If you've seen Kung Fu Panda, that's good, Roger, because there are probably more people out there that have seen Kung Fu Panda that would know what I would start if I start talking about Kung Fu and the history and the different martial arts. We might lose people, but if we talk about Kung Fu Panda,
we're going to keep
everyone. I bet we're going to keep everyone.
They call him Master Shifu, which is actually repetitive because Shifu in Chinese means master.
Means master.
Or actually teaching father.
Or teaching, yeah.
So it's somebody who I actually studied under for almost 4 years.
Right. And some of you out there who studied maybe a Japanese style like I did, actually I've done several styles, but you may sensei may be something that you're familiar with.
Right, that's a similar type of term, just Chinese versus Japanese.
Exactly. So, but we wanted to bring Shifu in today because there's some remarkable look. No matter if you're Shaolin style or if you are some style from Japan, whether it be a martial arts of the karate style or the kung fu style. Shaolin style, which is kung fu based out of China. When you develop or when you study these, and Roger, you were learning because you did this for about 4 years, you said.
Right. Well, 4 years this last time, and then about a year and a half before that. With another, an American Shifu.
Right. And I myself. Boy, I started in the martial arts at about 11 or 12 years old and didn't stop till I was in my mid-20s. And honestly, you never stop. But once I left the school, this training never leaves you, no matter what type of training.
If it's good, yes, you always remember some of it.
But when one thing I learned, and you were probably learning, Roger, is when you're learning martial arts and people think, oh, you're learning how to kick some tail, it isn't all about that. Actually fighting and defending yourself is one of the last things that you really are really is part of that training. A lot of it is body and mind and spirit.
It's supposed to be the last resort.
Right. And so what we want to talk about today is when you get into the deep philosophy of martial arts, whether it be from a Shaolin background or from any other Japanese style, the good ones, I guess we should say, as you mentioned before, Roger.
I mean, there's, like I say, I did I took a few classes in Krav Maga, and it is all fighting.
That's all is more,
but that's what they specialize in.
It's a military.
That's what they do, yes.
The thing that, what you all are talking about, that the one thing that they all have in common, one word, meditation.
Right.
Well, like say the Krav Maga, no meditation.
Well, they might
strictly training for fighting.
He might meditate a little bit while he's visualizing taking out the number of opponents that's in front of him, but
350 people, come on.
Yeah, no, there's some. Yes, you're right, David. Especially with
most
the
of all
Kung
the
Fu
Eastern style fighting. Mm-hmm. Now, if you go to a boxing school, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of meditation.
No, you're not. But
but
they may need it.
Yes, the Eastern ones generally have that as part of the curriculum or part of what they teach you. It's not just, it's mind and body, not just body training.
Right.
It's something else too and I just thought about it. I was there many years ago. But the other thing is the mind, and like we talk about being prepared, and one of the things they teach you is that you see what you're going into, or you visualize in your mind, and then you do whatever you have to do. But it's like when you drive into a parking lot, you're aware of your situation, but then through the meditation, you take it a step further, and whatever it happens to be.
Well, there is a lot to be said from meditation, which also what we learned is breathing control. And with meditation comes that deep thought. With breathing control, that's when you really get into injury control, pain resistance. There's so much more to martial arts than the actual fighting, and that's what we want to get into a little bit today. Because when you master, there's one thing to master technique, but it's not just that. When I was learning, and I'm sure Roger, you went through this. We had some nights that were the classes that were just on the mind, spirit, and body, and that wasn't
that
techniques.
Was fairly in fact, every class I had, they always had some sort of either a slow form practice where you actually go super slow and you can actually concentrate on each movement and your breath while you're moving. You had that every time, and then you did other things as well. But you always had that every week, and you always did some meditation with every class.
Yep. And there's not a sport out there where breathing control won't help you. And you really to learn that in the martial arts.
You need to learn that just if you get pulled over by the police.
Well, that's
for
true.
Violating your stay-at-home order.
Your stay-at-home order? That's true, too. You don't want to panic.
Brent was telling me that goes in effect at 6 tonight.
Apparently.
That's right.
Apparently.
And does anybody know, are we all going to turn into pumpkins or what?
So what Kemp has tried to do, and I'll give him credit because Kemp was reluctant to do this. What angers me is that he did it. But what gives me solace is that he's trying to at least come out and be. He's not one of those that are threatening jail time or anything like that. He's simply saying, "Look, let's spend the next I think it's a week or two. Let's try and stay in our homes. But if you have to leave, because you can leave for food, you can leave for medical attention.
Yeah, I mean,
you can leave for
if you
family,
starve to death in your house, what's the point of not getting the coronavirus?
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I think what Kemp is alluding to is you can't rip to shred the Constitution in the name of a state of emergency, which is what a lot of municipalities are trying to do right now.
A lot of states have done that already. They're fining people, corralling people in.
Right, and I don't want to make light of the situation. We social distancing is a good thing. Sheltering at home, right.
By the way, when this is over, everybody can still feel free to stay 6 feet away from me.
Hey, let me tell you something. The regular flu has already killed, I think, north of 10,000 people this season.
Worldwide?
Worldwide, it's way more than that.
Worldwide, it's 5 times as many as the coronavirus worldwide.
So social distancing, hey, keep it up. Maybe we'll save lives.
This Fauci or whatever his name is,
Fauci.
He made the point, and it's a very good point. The question was, well, when are we going over the peak, and is it there or whatever? And he said, well, we basically, particularly in some of the larger areas, yes, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. And the interviewer said, well, I don't understand. How can it be getting better and
worse at the same time? Right.
And like he said, well, the numbers are coming down. But if you get more people, well, then obviously.
Plus, the square area of the United States is so huge. Not everything happens at every place at the same time.
I think what Fauci hasn't, and even Trump, maybe they need to do a better job of explaining, is the difference between discovering people who've had it or have it, rather as opposed to the spreading. These aren't necessarily new cases. When it's because the testing is becoming more prevalent, so you can test more people. When you can test more people, you're going to find out people who had it, people who recovered from it.
There's people who didn't even know they had it.
Unfortunately, there's only one factual number.
Yeah.
The deaths.
The body count.
The body counts, yeah. And those are dropping. Even New York had a decrease. I'm not sure if it was which area, but I believe it might have been in how they're tracking the cases. But even New York, they're saying now that they're seeing some movement in New York, that they're saying in the next 7 days they should.
Did you see the statistics? It was a 0.02% of people who they can confirm have the disease or have the flu, the virus, have actually died from it. 0.02%.
Yeah, and the normal flu is 0.8.
Yeah, so it's 4 times less dangerous than the influenza flu.
Right, and maybe maybe we were it's a lot of people get mad when you say it's less dangerous. Well, okay, maybe, but for now, the death rate is lower.
From what I understand, though, is that more healthier people can be more adversely affected by this than the regular flu.
Except us, O positive blood type. Hoorah, hoorah. And you other people, it's your fault.
You know, I think
Drink a lot of whiskey. It's like hand sanitizer for your insides.
That's right. You know, I've heard, or they are finding out that there are people who are immune to it. There are people that are
there are always people who are immune to almost anything.
Almost anything. So I'd like to consider myself one of those. I'm not sure. I can't verify that, but I'm going to go ahead and mentally.
What are you thinking? You just think it flies over you?
Absolutely. I think short people are immune.
That's why Fauci hasn't got it yet.
That's a good point, because Fauci makes me look tall. He's a pretty short dude. So, but you know, but there's definitely something to this, and you know, we talked about this before last week. You've got to keep your sense about you, and you cannot under any shape or form trade your freedom for security. You cannot allow your elected officials.
What did Ben Franklin say? Those willing to trade essential liberty for security deserve neither. And he was 100% right. And I'm not saying that we defy sheltering in place and doing licking handrails. No.
Right. I'm not saying we don't do things that are smart. It's smart to social distance right now. It's smart to shelter when you can, but to try and get people to try and change the paradigm where Americans are going, let me ask the government if I can leave my home. Let me ask the government. Let me check with the government. This is a bad paradigm.
Now, I wonder, are they going to require you to have papers showing where you work if you're out on the roads?
Somebody was pulled over the other day, and I've got this from secondhand information from a person who knew somebody. I know that sounds funny.
A guy who, my cousin's sister's brother's friend, roommate.
There was actually somebody pulled over in Georgia, in the metropolitan area yesterday, who was actually asked for papers. Now, again, look,
toilet
folks.
or otherwise?
What's that?
Toilet? Or?
Yeah, right. It may have been toilet paper. I should clarify.
Rolling?
You know, they were asked for documentation to prove where they were going. And this is the kind of stuff, when your police force is turned into a government state force, where and what I mean by that is they're not out there protecting and defending. They're out there doing what the government is asking them to do, as far as trying to keep you at bay and your home or in some certain area. This is the kind of stuff, I'm sorry, national emergency or not, right? We can't stand for.
We need to take a break here in a second, but before we do, I want to mention something that I'd mentioned in Brett's office before we came in here, and that's
Mr. IT.
Yeah, we folks, and I don't go into this very often, but yesterday, I don't know why, but I was really struck by a thought about our homeless brothers and sisters that are under the bridges or on the side of the road or whatever the circumstance is. And there's a lady, Frankie Holbrook, that she has a ministry, a street ministry called Shine the Light. And if you've got extra funds that you could put her away, shine his light. And you know, we have to take care of the folks that are not as fortunate as we are. And I generally don't use the station for this necessarily, but in this case, we've got a lot of folks out there, and just, you know, if you think about it, if they start getting sick, you know,
if it spreads to the homeless area, which California, it's funny you mentioned that, David, because LA is starting to see this. They've got a case now, and if it goes wild through the homeless area, then that's a problem.
And then all of a sudden you've got dastardly things that we as a civilized nation have never had to do,
right?
But could very likely have to do. And that's the cremation of thousands of bodies.
What you're talking about is having to burn bodies to put it.
Well, you're talking about California, who has such a huge homeless population anyway, because they encourage them. Let's have them come here, give them free needles so they can use drugs, you know. Let them go to the bathroom in the street without doing anything.
Especially San Francisco. And L.A. is catching up rapidly with San Francisco.
But, it really, from a standpoint of location or anything else, we're still dealing with other human beings. And, you know, I I'm very blessed, and the three of us sitting here are very blessed that we haven't gone through that, nor do we anticipate going through that. And you say, well, they did it to themselves. Well, you know, we all have circumstances, and
right. Not
I could bring out the violins for the past 3 years, and not going to. But you know, we all have our trials and tribulations, and one thing that nobody has mentioned that I'm going to mention right now is the fact that this is going to be over with, folks. Nobody knows when, but when it is over with, and to my knowledge, no one has addressed this, but we'll be living in the largest country in the world with one incredible case of PTSD. I'm serious.
You're probably right.
You think about it, and it may not have been a bullet that has whizzed by your head, or you may not have seen somebody stabbed with a bayonet.
Right.
But then again,
worse.
this new generation, they're traumatized by so little. You know,
Well,
if their
I think-
Facebook account gets hacked, they can go into a complete stupor and go into a coma.
I think that's one thing that David's talking about is we've got such a snowflake society. Imagine these guys that are freaking. I mean, now a lot of these snowflakes are used to being in their parents.
Easy, Karen, easy.
Are used to being in their parents' basement, but when they're told that they can't go congregate, that they can't go swipe Tinder and go meet somebody, they're probably you're right. I mean, there's going to be some level of that, I'm sure.
Well, you know, you can't even today. There's I'm not going to call it PTSD, but there's the anxiety. You know, I've gone a few places and it looks like people are like the deer in headlights. You know, and there a lot of us are confused. We don't have an answer. And
There's always different kinds of people. Some people are going to
Sure.
be people who are going to be the sheep. There's going to be the sheepdogs, and there's going to be the wolves. There's going to be people take advantage of this time.
Well,
There's going to
I'm
be
glad you
people.
brought that up, and that's the DOJ has asked us to please warn the elderly, warn everybody of the scams that are out there calling. You want your check early? Well, all you have to do is give me your Social Security number, and I'll see that your bank account
These are the same scams that have been going on for years,
Yep.
and everybody should be aware of them
And-
always.
Yep.
When somebody calls you up and asks you for your any personal information, don't do it. You verify. You always
Unless you want to
verify.
play games, which I love to do. Give fake
Well,
numbers.
You can play games, yes,
Yeah.
and you should.
And I
take
I
up their
love-
time. It keeps
I love
keeps somebody
to
else
tell 'em,
safe.
you know, you've scared me to death. I'll do everything that you say you want me to do. And there's just one little qualification. I'll give you my badge number if you'll give
Give
me
me
yours.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, you can have fun with them. In fact, Roger, you and I could probably get some good examples of some fun.
I-
with
The
that.
longer you keep them talking, and the longer you string them along, they're not making money.
I like giving the role reversal.
Yep, I've done that
Yeah.
one.
That's my favorite.
What-
Oh, hi, we're calling about your car's warranty. Oh, yes, we
Yes,
do offer
we
car
do
warranties.
offer
What kind of
warranties.
model of car do you have? What year is it? How long would you like to get the warranty for? No, we're selling car warranties.
I'm
Yes,
selling-
we sell
yes,
car warranties.
We sell. Yes, we do. And and
Works with home
eventually,
mortgages.
it works with
the
just
car
about
warranties.
everything. Even if they call up and say, "I've got a special deal for you. I can get you a COVID-19 Wuhan check soon." Oh, yes, we're ready to send those out right now. I just need your address.
We're pre-qualifying people now to get those checks out.
So,
Oh, and we need your telephone number, your dog's name, your wife's name, and your girlfriend's
and
name.
I'm going to need your girlfriend. Exactly. So,
And her home phone number.
right, we're going to need that number. So,
No, you know, this is a shame that we live
With
in
the
a
webcam address,
society
too?
that, a society
the
that
address.
will, you know, allow crooks like this. But
Yeah.
like the gentleman that does our elderly abuse show says, you know, this is the way they make a living, and
Yeah.
they are pros at it, and they
The
can.
problem is a
twist
lot
you
of
in
them
and
are,
outs.
are not even in the country while they're doing
Oh, yeah.
it. I mean, this
They-
stuff's coming
But you know,
from,
this is probably a far cry from what it was 100 years ago when people used guns and knives to rob people. At least here, their actual well-being is not in danger every day like it would have been a long time ago. Granted, still they can get them for money.
Just an old person's pocketbook is their well-being.
Right, I understand, but they're not, but like I say, at least you're not being held up at gunpoint, and this can be trained to learn, don't do this. Assuming somebody has control of their senses, they can learn, don't give anybody information that you don't know.
Right, but unfortunately, some of these people are trained to really scare the elderly, and that's where
or scare anybody.
Sad. But,
They have people they call you and say, "Oh, your mom is in jail. She needs money. Here's the address. Send this to it." And you're like, "Whoa." And then if you can't reach her,
that's a good trick. My mom's 6 feet under.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. They say some close friend is in jail, needs help, and you.
I've actually gotten one of those calls before, and I said, "Keep them."
That's right.
But I'm not a snowflake that's going to fall for stuff like that. But there are people who I think there's a difference between the elderly population that just they need a little bit more help in that arena.
I just tell them I'm crawling down the telephone line and I'm going to blow them away.
I will find you.
I will find you.
And I will kill you.
I will kill you. I have a certain set of skills. I don't have a lot of money, but what I do have is a special set of
skills. My cooking is so bad, it can kill you.
Well, I guess we better hit that first break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk immune systems.
We will.
We'll talk more martial arts. So, we'll be right back.
The Docs for Patient Care Foundation is your way to join the fight and become a member of an organization created by doctors for patients, dedicated to fighting for your healthcare freedom and preserving the doctor-patient relationship. Get a pen and paper. Write down docs4patientcarefoundation.org. That's DOCS, the number 4, patientcarefoundation.org. Go to our site and please make a generous tax-deductible donation and join the fight today. Thank you.
You can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan, and every family will save thousands of dollars a year. I'm Ellen Deal, and if you've been hurt by the Affordable Care Act, you can email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com to see if we can help. Small business owners, individuals, families, and baby boomers, email MAGA45CAG@gmail.com for 3 easy questions to determine if you can get away from Obamacare. I'm a 20-year veteran of the insurance industry and here to help you for all your insurance needs.
Whether cruising the strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the americasbroadcastnetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we are back. So we are still waiting for our guest, but this is live radio and things happen.
I can't say there's much traffic out there.
No, I don't think
maybe
we can
he's in a
blame him
roadblock.
on traffic. He might have gotten pulled over and said, "Where are you going?" And then Shifu may have taken things into his own hands.
Oh
no! No, but we can definitely. We were
that
talking.
Would play havoc with an already overworked healthcare system.
Yes, it would. It depends on how many people they try to hold him down. We were talking a little bit, Roger, and you and I both can speak from experience, so maybe we could talk a little bit about what we mean by mind, spirit, and body. Because when you talk about the immune system, a lot of people don't understand how big a deal the mind can play.
Absolutely.
And I will speak of this not just from the martial arts training, the years and years that I had, where we actually learned, Roger, you probably know the term ki or chi.
Chi, yeah.
And because in the Chinese you'll learn chi, and in Japanese you'll learn ki, but they mean the same thing, which is that inner. You've got this inner power.
Balance your
and
inner
I'm not
power,
talking about the tea.
No.
Well, it's like you ask people. You have somebody sitting here with you. Okay, relax, slow your breathing down, and they can do that, or hold your breath, or breathe faster. Okay, try and get your heart rate up. You do something, you do something to get up. Now, the fact you have control over those aspects of your body, who's to say you don't possibly have control over other aspects, but you're just not aware of how to do it?
No, look, there is one, I believe 100% that there's a truth to this, and I'll tell you why. When I went through my cancer treatment, I had a choice to make, and this was an inner choice for me. Just from when I would go to the cancer center and see people, you could see people everywhere that just looked like they were ready to give up.
Despair, yeah.
And
you took the other road. You said, "Oh no."
Well, it was tough at first.
It's
because
tough all the way through, I bet.
It is, and it's easy to go, woe is me, this sucks, I can't do anything. And it didn't take me long, though, and it really, I attested to the training that I've received, was I decided, no, I'm not going to take that road. I'm going to take the road that's going to get me recovered. And
go down kicking and screaming and fighting in a pile of brass.
Exactly. That's basically the way I felt. And when I turned my mental capability or my thought process, I turned it on healing process. I truly believed I helped my body go through this.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
that's something
Attitude has a lot to do with healing yourself.
The positive,
you've got to believe.
There's something to be said about positive attitude, and positivity is in it's in that kind of training. When you go get good martial arts training, you're going to get natural positivity training, but that kind of mind over body there's some truth to it. I'm a firm believer of it.
And there are other things that have shown, like avoiding stress. I mean, stress causes cells on a molecular level to break down, have problems, causes mutations, which can cause cancers. And so avoiding stress is a huge factor in staying healthy.
I'm glad you mentioned stress, Roger, because people will look at us and say, oh, what do you mean? That's gobbledygook. You're talking about using your mind and just having these good thoughts and meditating that you can have an effect on your immune system.
I'm not saying I don't take ibuprofen all the time, but still.
Right, but when people say that we are a little bit off when we talk about this, well, you just mentioned absolutely on a molecular level what stress can do. Well, you can't really see stress. Stress is something you feel. Stress is something that's happening to your body.
Yeah, but you can tell. When you're stressed, your body doesn't feel
because
good.
Your body's
you
telling
don't feel good when you're stressed.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing that and I'm sorry that our guest hadn't made it or your guest hadn't made it, but the other thing that I would like to have heard or talked more about is that, and I learned just an nth of nothing, but the ability to transfer chi from one person to the next, and that.
Well, if you heard Shifu last week, he goes, I can't fix you. I can show you the way. You have to do it, though. I can't do it for you. You have to do it yourself.
You have to. He can help start your motor, though.
Right.
Yes, he can show you the way. You can lead the horse to water
on a path, and you can. And there's other exactly what you're talking about, David. You know, there. If anyone ever read Bruce Lee's book, and
I have.
It's a great book, and
I didn't know you could read.
Well, it had a lot of pictures.
Every now and then,
one word, one finger.
It's a picture book.
I had my mom help me.
While his dad was in the background going, "Hey, you freaking animal! You got to read over there." No, but if you've never read Bruce Lee's book, I recommend everyone read it. But there's a lot of truth to, there was a lot of things talked about the his 1-inch punch. And that's kind of that transfer of ki, kind of what you're talking about. From a small space can come great power. And that's pretty neat. But ladies and gentlemen, we have our guest here today who has arrived. Roger, we want to...
This is my Shifu, I'm proud to say. 31st generation Shaolin Grandmaster Shi Deru. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we were actually just talking before you came in about how having a good attitude and having a good mental state can help avoid your body from damaging itself by you worrying or stressing or having bad thoughts. And it can
actually help an immune system. You can help your recovery process. You can help your
yes, sir.
Just your well-being.
Yes. I think it's because for centuries, people always just the people, not just Chinese or Americans or Europeans or Africans, it doesn't matter. If you're people, if you have a good heart, if you open your heart, if you have good energy, if you have good attitude, if you have the positive things, if you really sometimes calm your mind to see something beyond the appearance, beyond the terrible things, beyond that fears, beyond all the thoughts, beyond all these emotions, and when you transcend over that, you see beautiful things, and you have a good immune system. That's the reality, because the energy really prevails.
So that's what I think is fascinating, and what I think maybe you can go a little more into is that energy. Everyone has an energy.
Qi.
And and we were just talking about qi. So in Chinese you would refer to it as qi, and in the Japanese schools it's ki.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, but it's the same
It's
thing.
the same word.
Right.
Yeah, same word.
And we were talking about that, and so maybe for those, because I trained for many years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I was taught, but for some of our listeners, maybe explain a little bit or elaborate a little bit more on that energy that is qi.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I will. And qi over here, to me, qi probably everybody different, but similar. Qi is energy, okay, just pure energy. So our life, according to Einstein, is matter and energy. Actually, there can be energy, can be matter. Matter, energy can be interfere.
Well, they can convert.
Can convert. Yes, exactly.
Equals MC squared.
Exactly. Here we go.
Exactly.
See?
MC squared. For those who only wondered what that meant.
Exactly.
That's precisely. So it's when we shoot a double wave, like a photons into the two slits, according to our quantum physics experiment, and then if we observe, and it becomes marbles, becomes solid, becomes something one by one, and it's photon. And however, if you do not observe, there's no consciousness involved, and then there's no photon anymore. It's all waves. Everything's waves, energy waves.
Right.
So that means our consciousness somehow influence whatever it happens.
Whatever happens.
Exactly.
So an outcome can be influenced.
That is correct. By our observation. And by qi over here, it's about your observation, it's about your energy, it's about your interference. It is about the collapse. When you collapsed, and then becomes something. When the collapse becomes good or bad, or good energy or bad energy, a good result or bad results. Whatever you sow, and then you what kind of seed you put in, whatever you reap.
Right.
This is called a Bible. According to tradition, any language.
Reap what you sow.
Exactly. Reap what you sow. Exactly. That's what it is. So, and when your conscious energy is vibrating, when your consciousness is up, when your energy is up, and everything goes well, because your bioelectricity and uplift your energy, your bioelectricity uplift your hormones. Bioelectricity also inside and connect the neurons connection, that brain waves become different. Your heart, it becomes different. Your heart waves and your brain waves, they interaction with each other, communicate with each other. The heart produces a lot of chemicals. The beautiful chemicals really can help you to uplift your immune system, uplift your energy, and give you a lot of, for example, serotonin, and produce and endorphins, and interact with your brain. So at the same time, when you have bad emotions, bad energy, what do you call bad attitude, or you always see something that is
see the negative in
negative things, and then you're going to produce T cells. What T cell does, it's going to kill you.
It's going to kill you.
T cells is kill good energy, good cells, and make good cells and become cancerous.
It's like Bobby McPherson.
Exactly.
Don't worry, be
That's
happy.
what it is. So that's precisely what I talk about, the immune system. That's the Qi. What do we talk about Qi? You have positive Qi, you have negative Qi. But what we promote is that of Qi that is really, really uplift you, expand your consciousness, give you good energy, and open your heart. And then that heart transmission, as according to science, the heart energy transmission, and vibrate, and much more actually megahertz than your brain. And that will influence the brain, also influence your surroundings, and give you a beautiful, positive things. And all the great things come to you. And that means you are more connected with the universe, more connected with God, more connected with beautiful things.
Yep.
Instead of connected with the puddle, the people is staying in the puddle. That's how it is.
Because that positive energy is going to attract positive energy.
Beautiful, yes.
It's going to breed positive. And this is something I think so many people don't understand, is it's easy to be negative. It's not so easy to be positive.
That's because the appearance is, you see right over there. Because especially during this coronavirus, and everybody sees the terror. Everybody sees the fear. Everybody sees the frightened emotions. And they see all these crazy things. But they don't see. Transcend that. You need to get something good out of it. When you stay at home, to be alone, that aloneness you can observe internally, can improve yourself, improve your energy, more connected with the universe, more connected with God, when connected with beautiful things. But
it's also
people
hard.
see other things. They can be rush. They're gonna rush. They're gonna be panic. They're gonna be because they get into this siren effect.
They get into
well, they're also gonna
the
they're
siren
stressed
life.
too because people don't have money to pay bills, so stress builds up, and then you have to take care of kids at home. Stress builds up, and it's hard to get past all these layers and maintain that positive attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
The
this is what I
roadblocks.
say. This is what I say. You don't have money. Okay, you worry you're gonna have money. If you transcend, you can put action. You may find some money.
And you'll find the money.
Yeah, well, exactly. I came from orphan.
Wow.
I came from China. Of course, China. During my time, I was an enemy of the country. I was born as an enemy of the country.
Wow.
I was born with a crime. I never committed. Because my father belonged to the nationalists.
Oh, okay.
Instead of the communists.
When my grandparents belonged to Presbyterian Church.
Wow.
My mother belonged to the Presbyterian Church. Because church in those days,
that's a big no-no.
That's a big no-no. Because I was born in a Presbyterian church. And that's even worse. That's just the way I do during those days. And so my grandmother was a landlord. Otherwise, she didn't have money to put my father into Beijing University. That's one of the just like a Harvard of China.
Right.
And then so when he graduated from Harvard of China, the Beijing University, he became the superintendent, the assistant superintendent of the Educational Bureau of China.
Wow.
And then my grandparents, my mother's side, and belonged to the church. And then everything you can talk about. I was the worst of the worst. Everybody can smash you. Everybody can they can shoot you on the street. No problem. That's just the way it was. So you live with this kind of situation, but you've got to find something good in humanity. You've got to find something you can do instead of worry about this. I'm going to kill myself. Yes, have I thought of that? Yes, I did.
Wow.
When I was the first time when I remembered people asking me, "What is your name?" I say, "My name is Counter-Revolutionary's Kid." That's all I remember. Counter-Revolutionary's Kid, because everybody is a revolutionary.
Right.
I'm the counter-revolutionary. Because church belonged to counter-revolutionary, and my father was counter-revolutionary. The landlord is one of the worst of the counter-revolutionary.
They were capitalists.
Because they're capitalists.
Yeah, exactly. So it's tough, but you have to see from that toughness, and you have to see that's a test. That is a test. The test you to get overcome, and you become stronger, and you have mobility, and you become much more resilient than everybody.
Yep.
There is. That's what I thought.
I agree with that so much and you mentioned resilient because look what you went through, and people. I say this all the time, and we have it pretty easy in this country because of the
generally speaking, yes,
because of the opportunity that everyone has in this country should they choose to seek it. And when you look at taking something like what's happening now and keep yourself grounded and find that positivity. And people laugh sometimes when I say that. I get accused all the time, Victor, you smile too much. How can that be?
Beautiful.
How can that be? Because if I walk into a room and smile, maybe somebody who's having a bad day
will smile back.
And if
radiant.
And it's radiant. So it can. I would rather be accused of spreading
Smiling
smiles
too much.
yeah, and smiling too much, than to be pouting and blaming,
Grumbling.
and blaming. You know, I went through cancer treatment, and I was telling Rod, we were talking earlier about if I hadn't have made the decision, because I reached a day, I reached a point where I had to make the decision. I want to be healthy again. I want to play soccer again. I want to do the things I did. When I made that decision, things got better and rapidly.
And that's precise the qi. What I call qi, that's called we call universal qi, the intent qi. When you put the intent over there, you have a goal, you have your mind directed into that direction because you have a map. That map and spread that map and expand your energy. That map direct your energy. That map expand your consciousness. That's where you're going to go.
Wow.
When you go to that direction, there's no return. That's what I did.
Wow.
You know, see, it doesn't matter. You know, doesn't matter. We're all human beings.
Right.
You know?
Everybody has bad things happening in their life.
Right. It does. And like you said before, you can be African, you can be Hispanic, you can be from wherever. You're human. And if you're human, you have chi. And you can be positive, and no matter where. And I mean, just look at your background. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
I have a friend who used to study with me, and he studied martial arts for 55 years. And he always called me Shifu. And anywhere we go, he always say we are brothers, and with a different mother.
Because a different mother.
His wife has a blonde hair.
Oh wow, that's
brothers
great.
with different mothers.
That's what me and Roger always say.
Yeah, he was a colonel from the from Pentagon.
Wow.
And he's a U.S. Navy SEAL, and also he's a spy actually.
All right, I like this.
We went to China together. People
we won't say why.
90s, and people chase us. I say I say you go with me, and then all the people chase us. They're gone. they cannot catch us. There's no way they can catch us. We went all kind of ways, and he was just fascinated with what I do.
I bet. Well, that's great. Well, so David earlier had a question about chi and how I look at it as if I can put positive energy on somebody and make them think positive instead of negative.
Yeah.
So we're kind of transforming chi. And Roger was mentioning transferring chi, and Roger mentioned start someone's motor for them or help them.
Yeah. Let me give you an example. Okay, and Red Blue,
I remember his story. Yeah,
Red Blue and was a good friend of mine, and because his son studied with me when he was in the worst situation, he could not do anything. He's lazy. His father told me, and he just. Didn't do anything. He couldn't pass school, and he didn't want to do anything at all. And one day I met them at Discovery, the mall, Discovery Mall. And I told him, he said, well, my son wanted to do something, but he didn't want to do something. He never get anything. Do you think you can help him? I said, okay, let's do something. So they live in McDonald. You know McDonald? McDonald.
South.
That's pretty far, from North Coast.
Yeah.
I said, well, you come here once a week, and let him stay for a few hours, and let's do something. So, but 1 year later, and we went to the international tournament. He made a third.
Wow! In 1 year.
Wow!
Within 1 year, and the people, his father just amazed. He said, how could you do this to my son? I just couldn't believe it.
Right.
And he just, he talked all forever. 2 years later, and his cancer came back. And began to spread all over the body, become bone cancer, bone marrow, and, just all over the place. And his son told me, he said, Shifu, I said, you said you can do something. I said, well, I don't want to interfere with, Houston Anderson Center treatment.
Right. The
I don't want to interfere with Emory University treatment. I said, when he ran out of treatment,
come see.
Ask me. Because normally people are out of all the options. They come to see me. So, and then they ran out of treatment, and then by that time it was too late, and he couldn't even walk anymore because he lost like 60 pounds.
Wow!
Within weeks. And basically, I said, well, if his mind is clear, take him over here. So they get a lot of people carried him to my office, and he was just I could not recognize him at all. He just didn't have any shape, and he, sit on the chair, and he cannot sit. We had to put him a sofa. He laid over there. He could not just sit. He could not sit. So, and we talked, and I told him this option. And right now you don't have any drugs to deal with anymore. You don't have any chemotherapy anymore because you ran out of it. They already told you go home. Basically prepare.
Right.
For the last few minutes.
Last few.
And so this is what we can do. If you want to survive, if you want to live, let's do it together. I cannot do anything until you want to do it. It's when you want to, you can accept. I will help you to transform that energy, and then you must accept it. If you don't accept it, nothing I can do about it. So he said, I want to live. This is only, this is only chance. So so we worked, and every time they did, the whole family, 3-4 people took him to my office, and then we began to work, and a few weeks later, he began to try to stand. To learn how to stand. And then 2 months later, he began to learn how to walk. 3 months later, he would try to get back if he can swim. 6 months later, he said, well, I need to do some running. He began to run 1 mile. 1 year later, and he swim, he ran.
Wow.
That's all I can tell. 2 years later, he had another speech. He had a 2 interview with him. One interview is after 7 months. One interview is 1.5 years later. And I have both interviews. What I see is, if you want to do it, if you really consistently, persistently want to change your mind set, as we talk about, instead of why you want to smile, that kind of attitude. Let's smile, Let's get positive things. Instead of, eating all kinds of hamburgers, all kinds of crazy things, eat something.
I like those.
Eat something.
Right? Yeah.
Really nutritious.
A little more healthier.
Eat some vegetables.
Eat some vegetables. Ooh,
and hard. Then, and then do some self-observation. Self-observation is so important because you see your body, how that body change. You see how the energy change. You see how that sensory change. You see how that feel, the sensory make the body and they communicate. And you see how the body become communicate with each other. How the body calm down to organize, to reorganize. And then your chi begin to flow. And your body become radiant. And you just like you charge the battery.
Right.
Suddenly you charge the battery. Your energy is up. You feel great.
I think everyone.
That's important.
Everyone has that chi,
and I have the power to help themselves.
And I think they lock it away sometimes.
That's precise.
Well, you got to realize too, modern civilization tells you this doesn't work.
Well, that's true too.
That's a problem.
Because that's a problem.
You depend. What I see is that free yourself from authority. What authority? The books tell you what to do. Right. The doctor tell you what to do. The hospital tell you what to do. You got sick? Did you go to hospital?
Your wife tells you what to do.
Do you see a doctor? Forget about those things. Free yourself from the authority.
Right.
Free yourself from all the drug companies' advertisement. Free yourself from all these TV crazy things. Free yourself from all these people who, all these crazy signals. Free yourself from all these emotions. Free yourself from the thoughts. Free yourself from the past. Don't live in the past. Live here, now.
Live today.
Right.
Carpe diem.
That's very important.
That is, I love, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because too many people will either live in their past or they will live angry at things they can't change. And what I mean by that is, for me, I'm a pretty short guy, and I was told all the time, you're short, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do this. Well, I reached a point where I made the decision, I'll do whatever I want, and if you tell me I can't, I'm going to prove you wrong. and I've reached a point where I can be mad at my size for not being tall, but I can't change that. But what I can change is my attitude.
You can embrace
and
it,
what I can't
and use it
and
for
make
what,
it work. And that's what I love.
He goes under
to
the
hear.
low doorways. He laughs at everyone who hits
Yeah,
their
that's
head.
right. I can limbo like nobody. But I love that because you can choose to be positive and you can choose to let the past go, no matter what happened in your past.
Exactly.
You can dwell on it and hate yourself, or you can love yourself and live for tomorrow.
Yes.
And that's a message I think so many people need to understand, especially to today's world.
Well, it's hard with so many outside influences coming at you from every direction.
I mean, we got
have to
social media.
I know. Everyone telling you, this is how you have to do it. This is how you shouldn't do it. If you do this, you're doing it wrong. Everybody has an opinion, but you need to look for the better in everything.
Yeah. And you can find good.
Yeah, exactly. What I see is I tend to, every day, I meditate probably for a few hours, and the least is 1 hour, sometimes 5 hours, sometimes 6 hours, 8 hours. I just look into myself, and that's why I don't get sick. And it doesn't matter what kind of influenza, what kind of things. I just I have nothing to do with it.
Wow.
Because I'm not in it.
You don't want to participate.
I don't want to participate. Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to participate.
So
have nothing to do with
so
it. Because
you-
every year for the last 20 years, everybody have influenza, except that I got a SARS in China. When I insisted, I did get a SARS, but I stayed, and then I got over with it. And it's just everything you can. If you do not want it, you don't have to have it. That's what I see. I came
see,
from
that's-
very, very poor health, poor family, enemy of anybody. But and today in China, and nobody treated me as an enemy anymore, because China did 10 documentaries on me.
Wow.
Even the same government, but they feel I'm the one, give the country some shining point. And because I came from America, I became the head coach of the United States. The Sanda team went to Olympics 2008, and then it's just a lot of things that people see, and I came nothing, and then become somebody to them. Okay,
To
but it's
them.
still nothing. I still see it as nothing.
Well,
Right.
China's becoming a little more capitalistic and a little
Exactly.
more Western. they
Well,
are seeing things
yeah.
a little differently.
Well,
the
they're
early
trying
days
to-
of communism were
Yeah.
they locked everything
right.
down.
Well, what China's doing today is trying to keep their people from revolting, and if
Yeah.
you keep the people a little bit happy, you can keep your
it helps.
stringent control.
Yeah, they do that here too.
And they do it here. too.
$1,200 checks.
Take it. Look exactly what's going on. Yeah.
$2.2 trillion. If you divide it by everybody, it would be about $7,000. Instead, we get $1,200. But the politicians
But
got
the-
$46,000 each.
Yeah, well, I don't even want to get into that, but it's a great point. But it's eerily similar, and when you look at the kind of tyranny that I'm trying to bring warning to, because I want people to be aware.
Yes, and you've
yeah.
lived through
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
And you know it
the
firsthand.
freedom, is so important to me. The freedom is so vital. What I see, I'm not seeking for social, blame to this, blame to that. I see myself as I'm the humanity, I'm the society, I'm the universe, I'm the world. Why? Each of I is the society. Each of I is the humanity. Each of I is this country.
We can all choose to
We
be
can
better.
all-
Exactly. You can blame everybody else, and then, I'm not going to change. You change it.
Yes, and see,
That's the problem.
You bring up such a good point there that we deal with every election season. I don't need to change. My guy is good. You do it.
Yeah.
But it
That's the
has to
problem.
start
from me.
here. It has to
Internal
start.
changes.
Exactly.
What I advise is that internal revolution, that radical internal revolution yourself instead of anybody else. When you changed, everything else changed.
else will change because you're going to have that influence. You're going to have that natural
Exactly.
positive influence, but I like that, and I wish we could teach more people, or maybe more people be willing to learn.
Well, it's hard.
that-
There's so many influences coming from every
Well,
direction.
right.
I mean,
You
right
got
now
all
we
those
live in an
sources.
age where information is at an abundance we've never seen before.
that we've never seen before.
the
if-
Library of Congress is at your
Exhausted.
fingertips,
Yeah.
literally.
And if people would understand that you do have a body map and you can change your own paradigm. And by changing that,
Yes.
he's
very into it.
I've learned.
You have
But
to find the
can.
positive influences and try and filter out that which is
Yeah.
not.
And
it's so hard to do because
yeah.
they're coming at you
But
all
they come
the
from
time.
everywhere. But when you can hone yourself and you can change, and within first, then what's going to happen? Somebody, there's probably a reason why you, me, and our other group of friends have always been together for so long. We attract.
Right.
We attract
Well,
the positive.
Because you're the I call energy frequency, or the chi frequency. When the chi rises in certain level, different chi they connect with each other. When you have
And
healing
that's-
chi, the healing chi will connect with each other.
Wow.
And then if they have some negative chi comes in, and then they will be transformed into the good chi. But if you good chi, if you go to put it into the model, sorry.
Well, it's like when you sharpen a knife.
Oh yeah.
A knife is dull when it starts out. You take away all the bad parts that you don't need until you get to
Until
the
you get
fine
to the-
point. And you have to do
Beautiful.
that in society every day. You have to filter out all the bad
Yes.
and keep focused on the good.
And that's a nice way, Roger, of saying if you've got negative influences, cut them loose.
That's right.
Cut loose the negative influence.
Take them away. Focus on
Because
the
it's
point, on the
consume
good.
you.
It will consume you.
You know, I remember when Roger started with me for quite a few years, and he's always positive. You know, he's always he's very energetic. He comes in. I went to his house a couple of times, and we had a great time. You know, me and him and Thomas. You know, we have
That's right. That's
and,
right.
You know, it's beautiful people. You know, I love what I do, and I love all the people over here.
Yep.
So when you connect, you feel different. You know.
That's
You
true.
know, you have some people always want to, okay, give me some, give me some, but they don't do anything.
But they don't
and you
want
cannot do anything
You
about it for
can't.
them. You know, it's just you cannot
Yeah.
feed beggars. You know, unless they're willing to.
Unless
stand
they're
up.
willing.
Stand
Yeah.
up. Yes.
Yeah, I full-heartedly.
You can give somebody a hand up and help them
Yeah,
help
yeah, yeah.
themselves.
Well, it's just
but you
like
can't just help them
Yeah.
only.
No.
They have to
Well,
be willing to help
it's
themselves.
just
Lift
like
them, they're willing to stand up.
that they're willing to stand.
If you lift them up, they fall down. Let them go. What can
let
they
them
do?
go. Yeah.
Unless they really want to stand up, I always help people. And for school, I came here for over 34 years, and in the United States, and I was very, very poor student at the University of Mobile. It's a Baptist school, and I got a scholarship from there. And after that, and then I began to to do the different things. And for all these years, for 30-some years, I earned a lot of money. I probably give a lot. I give probably at least a few $1 million.
Wow.
Not a lot, probably, but around the education, different things, a couple million give out. But sometimes when I give to some people, they don't standing up. I begin to feel they betrayed. The idea. But some people they get up. And then they did something for themselves, and you feel beautiful. You feel you helped somebody.
Soon. Yeah.
You
finish
feel
up.
you helped somebody, and then they stand up and they become stronger. They become national champion. They become international champion. I say, wow, I did something
And you
for
did-
somebody,
You helped
and
them.
they changed their lives
And-
forever.
And that
All right.
spreads.
Well, that's all we have time for
Great.
today, but it was a pleasure having you, Shifu.
Thank you.
Yes, that was.
Thank you.
And who knows, maybe we'll do it again. But until then, keep listening to America's Web Radio for all the information we have.
The best shows right here.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.